afternoon, my name is Liam Neild and this is the MU Review, the place where I review all things Manchester United in the world of football. And today I'm here to review Manchester United's 1-0 reverse in Rotterdam against Feyenoord in the opening match of our Europa League group stage this season. It's another defeat, so ultimately you really got to put that down to being a bit shit, considering we're just off the back of the Manchester derby debacle at the weekend, so we really could have used a bit of a boost after that. But that being said, it's the Europa League. I can't say I'm that bothered. I was much more gutted by Manchester City defeat on Sunday, and I would be much more gutted if we lost to Watford again this coming Sunday. I do think that Mourinho was right to make all those changes. I think that's one of the things that most United fans can agree upon, which is that the Europa League is not a competition we care an awful lot about now. We're not sitting here saying we're better than this competition. We're just saying that we've had a taste of the finer things, and we understand that in the bigger picture, winning the Europa League is not as important as getting into the top four in the Premier League, getting into the Champions League and challenging for the Premier League title. You know, those are our priorities this season. And the Europa League ultimately will be a really good exercise for the rest of our squad, and that's what we saw today. There were lots of criticism in the press about Mourinho picking a weakened side, because obviously we did not play well, we played very poorly, and he did rotate most of the team. You know, Pogba kept his place, Bailly kept his place, De Gea kept his place, but apart from that, it was pretty much wholesale changes. And I have to say I was a bit disappointed with the guys that came in. You know, Marcus Rashford, you can't really put too much weight on his shoulders as such a young lad, but he wasn't really, he was getting double and triple marks, so you have to feel bad for him. You know, over the next 4 or 5 years, he's going to learn how to deal with that, just like players of the highest caliber have always done. You know, players like Wayne Rooney, when they were coming through as youngsters, you know, after a while, people sort of understood what their game was, and then they adapt their game. That's what world-class players do, and obviously with Rashford it's far too early to throw too much criticism at him. He played his best, he played an hour, and then Ibra came on. Can't say I have too many complaints. The people that I really thought dropped the ball today were players like Paul Pogba, who once again really looked off the pace, looked a bit anonymous, didn't look like the kind of player who would be worth a world record fee. But again, he's still settling in. This is a Thursday night game. I'm not going to criticise individuals too much. I'm not going to slate them. I'm not going to throw them out to dry. But it was a bit worrying, you know, playing a team like Feyenoord. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a fantastic atmosphere in the stadium. It felt like a Champions League match, even though it wasn't. It felt like a Champions League match, and Feyenoord were well up for it. This was the big, famous Man United coming to town with all their big superstars, and they were there to get a result against us. Whereas I got the impression that United saw this game as a bit of a chore, and I'm not saying that they're entirely wrong, because we're really not focused on the Europa League. A team like Feyenoord obviously hasn't won the Dutch league in a long time, and they are in the Europa League, and that is one of their most promising routes into the Champions League, which is a place where a team like Feyenoord, with the history that they have, will want to be in the near future. So for them, the Europa League carries so much more weight than it does for us. For us, our main route into the Champions League, or at least we hope it is through the Premier League. I'd be very disappointed if we didn't finish in the top 4 this season. In fact, I'd be disappointed if we didn't finish in 3 teams in the country when we're playing well. And for some reason, at the moment, we've fallen into a slump. We got caught out by the international break, I think. We didn't come back looking too sharp. A lot of our players were coming back from duty in South America and looked a bit jaded. So it's taken a little bit of time to get back up to speed. Now, obviously, it's no excuse. Other teams have done it as well. You know, City, for example, they beat us on Sunday, and then they beat Mönchengladbach pretty handily as well. So we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. But that being said, it is still early days. We don't need to panic too much. The first half was very dull. I thought that we controlled it, but we played sort of at half pace the whole time. And we really just didn't look like we were there to put them away. We looked like we were just there to play a game of football and wait for things to happen. And you can never do that, especially against teams of the quality that you're going to find in the Europa League. You know, you can call it a Mickey Mouse Cup all you want, but there are 13 to 15 teams in every division in Europe that don't even qualify for the Europa League. So if you've qualified for the Europa League, you've achieved something within your own division, whether that is something that you were looking for or aiming for relative to your overall goals as a club remains to be seen, but it's still a high quality competition, and we didn't play up to that high quality. In the second half, we tried to up the pace, and it just didn't really work for us. We lost all defensive shape, and Feyenoord broke away and managed to score a goal, which I think they deserved. Now, don't get me wrong, the player was offside. I don't know what his name was, but the bloke who crossed the ball in for, I think Vilhena was the one who scored the winner. He was offside. It was close, but he was offside, and it was on the near side where the linesman was, so I was a bit disappointed that the linesman didn't catch that. But that being said, we got completely outfoxed in our own final third there, because we had 4 players, you know, Herrera, I think Schneiderlin was in there as well, and then we had, of course, our left back Rojo, and our left midfielder, I think at the time, was Memphis Depay. So we had 4 players all within about 10 square yards of each other. So all Feyenoord really had to do was to play some long balls and stretch us out. And Vilhena, who I think was being marked by either Pogba or Herrera, one of the central midfielders, was completely unmarked when he rushed in to score the goal. And that was the fault of players ball watch and get dragged towards the ball. These are schoolboy errors. And it's those things that worry me. It's not the result. I don't give a shit about the Europa League. I really don't. We can go out in the group stage with no points, and the only thing that would disappoint me is that we've been embarrassed. That's really it. I really don't mind if we win the Europa League, how far we go in it or not. What I want to see is I want to see the players who've been pushed to the fringes of the squad. Players like Memphis Depay, Morgan Schneiderlin, you know, Marcus Rojo, Matteo Darmian. I want to see these players step up. I want to see them say, you know what, I want to be in this team, because that is what a championship winning team is made of. It is made of 23 players, not 11, 23 players who are all competitive and believe that they deserve to be in the starting 11 and are playing to their best ability to try and get there. So I want to see players like Memphis pushing for a start. I want to see players like Schneiderlin and Darmian and even Rojo to a certain extent. I want to see them pushing for a start. Whether they get it or not, I want to see them playing to that standard. And if they're not playing to that standard in the game or in training, that means that the players who are playing ahead of them don't have to play as hard to keep their spot, and the whole ethic of the team goes down. And I think that's a very dangerous pattern to fall into. Now, Jose Mourinho is without a doubt the right man to get players of all shapes and sizes, of all the roles within the squad, playing to their best. I think we need to get out of this slump quickly. We've lost 2 on the bounce, having won our first 3 or 4 this season if you include the Community Shield. And now we've got a really pivotal, you know, next couple of weeks. September is a busy month. That's when we've got, you know, we've got midweek action next week against Northampton in the League Cup. We'll be able to rotate the squad again, but fully expect a fully strength side to go to Watford on Saturday or on Sunday, and to play a really decent team, a team that played really well in these opening stages of the season. Came from 2-0 down to beat West Ham 4-2 at the Olympic Stadium. They've got some great attacking options, so we really need to show everybody, hey, just because we've had a couple of bad games, just because we lost to one of the only teams in the division who is probably better than us, doesn't mean that everything's going to fall down around us and it's going to be like the last few seasons all over again. I think we need to go to Vicarage Road on Sunday. We need to put in a performance, and we need to win. We need to show everybody, hey, this is a blip. You know, class is permanent here. We're going to come back and we're going to keep the pressure on everybody above us. We haven't got too much to worry about right now, but 2 defeats in a row is never something I like to take. As far as man of the match goes, I thought Chris Smalling was superb, captaining the side on his return from, you know, international duty and then injury and all these things, and he's been pushed out of the side by Blin. I think he made a very good case for himself to partner Eric Bailly long term, because I do think that Daley Blind was at fault for both of the Man City goals on Sunday. He was definitely at fault for the second one, or really he was definitely at fault for both of them. I don't even think it's an opinion. You know, he was beaten to the ball by I believe it was Kelechi Iheanacho, who nodded it onto De Bruyne, who then scored their opener, and he was then the man who played Iheanacho onside for his second goal. So Daley Blind made a couple of costly mistakes. He lost his place in the starting 11 to Chris Smalling in the Europa League, and I think that even if it doesn't happen this Sunday, I think over the next few weeks in the Premier League, Smalling is going to come into that position, and I think Smalling's attitude has been excellent, considering he was our main man in the centre of the park last season. He's been pushed out by Bailly this year. He's kept his head down, he's been determined, and he's taken his opportunity now that he's got it. So he gets my man of the match. But all in it's being said, you know, not going to panic too much. A couple of weeks from now, we have to go to the middle of a war zone to play some team called Zuria Luhansk. I don't even know what country it's in. I just know it's in that area of Europe that's kind of having its lines redrawn right now because of all sorts of civil disputes. So that'll be a lot of fun. But with all of that said, not panicking too much, just really antsy to get to the next game. That's how I always feel after a United defeat. I always just want us to get to the next game so we have an opportunity to put some smiles back on red faces and make United great again. But yeah, so if you enjoyed the video, hit a like, comment if you want to talk to me about anything, make any comments about the way you think the team went. If you think that there is a reason to panic, by all means level that conversation at me, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Share the video if you want to reflect some of the things that I've been saying onto your other people on social media. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Sunday.